If your mind won't stop racing tonight, stay. You're not alone. Welcome to Sleepless Moments Therapist, where we slow everything down and finally let ourselves feel. If you're hearing this right now, you've probably been holding on to a quiet ache for far too long. A belief you never asked for. A sentence that was never said out loud. But somehow, it became the background noise of your life. I'm hard to love. Maybe it started in childhood. Maybe it came from someone who left when you needed them most. Or maybe it was built slowly, brick by brick, through moments where love was withheld, where your needs were too big, where your silence was safer than your truth. But tonight, let me tell you what that voice in your head never will. That belief? That aching sentence? It's a lie. You are not hard to love. You are not too complicated. You are not too broken. You are not too anything. You are someone who learned to adapt to survive. To shrink your needs so others wouldn't walk away. To smile when your heart was aching. To become smaller, quieter, easier, just to keep people around. But the truth is, you never had to become easier to be worthy of love. You never had to edit yourself just to be enough. You were enough long before the world convinced you otherwise. And I know that belief. The one that says, I'm too much. Or, I'll be left again. I know it feels so real. But you weren't too much. They were just unequipped, unready, unavailable, or simply unwilling to hold something so beautiful and deep and real. That's not a reflection of your worth. That's a reflection of their capacity. Let that settle. You've spent years trying to be lovable. But love was never something you had to earn in the first place. Breathe now. Deeper. Let your chest rise, not in fear, but in permission. Permission to exist fully. Permission to be seen. Permission to be loved, not for the mask you wear, but for the soul you've always been. Tonight you begin to unlearn the lie. You are not hard to love. You never were. Somewhere along the way, love got tangled with pain. You started to believe that love meant holding your breath, walking on eggshells, waiting for someone's moods to shift before you dared speak. You began to think that love was supposed to feel like anxiety, like wondering if today you'd still be chosen, like needing to prove again and again that you were worth staying for. But I want you to pause tonight and listen gently to this truth. Love was never meant to hurt you. Love is not supposed to leave bruises on your spirit. It's not supposed to make you feel invisible. It's not supposed to show up only when you're pleasing, productive, or perfect. That kind of love? That wasn't love. That was control. That was inconsistency dressed up in affection. That was someone using your hope as a leash. Real love, the kind that feels like exhaling. It doesn't play games with your heart. It doesn't give and take based on your behavior. It doesn't leave you guessing whether you're enough. Real love holds you. It listens when you're quiet. It shows up even when you're messy. It creates space for your pain, without judgment or fixing. You may not have seen it yet. Not in your childhood. Not in your relationships. Not even in the way you speak to yourself. But just because you haven't experienced safe love, doesn't mean you aren't worthy of it. You are. In fact, you always have been. Let go of the idea that love has to feel like survival. That love is about bending, proving, or performing. You don't have to stay in places that make you feel small, just because they once called it love. Tonight, you're allowed to rewrite the story. You're allowed to believe in softness again. You're allowed to imagine love as something calm, something steady, something that never makes you question your own worth. Because that version of love, it's real. And more importantly, you deserve it. They told you, maybe with words, maybe with silence, that you were too emotional, too intense, too needy, too sensitive. So you did what so many people do when they've been made to feel like too much. You became less. You lowered your voice. You held back your tears. You stopped asking for what you needed. You started apologizing for taking up space. in rooms, in relationships, in life. But hear this now, gently, as you rest. You were never too much. You were simply around people who were not ready for the depth of you. And that is not your fault. You feel deeply. That is not a flaw. You care a lot. That is not a mistake. You express love, pain, joy, and fear with open hands, and that is not weakness. The world has a way of punishing people who are emotionally honest. It teaches you to be stoic, to numb, to laugh when you're hurt. It tells you to move on before you've even had time to grieve. But your tenderness is not something to be fixed. It's something to be honored. You were not too much. They were too limited. Too afraid of the mirror you held up. Too uncomfortable with feelings they never learned how to handle. You were never asking for too much. You were asking for what any human being deserves. To be seen, to be heard, to be loved in your fullness. There's a version of love that doesn't ask you to shrink. That doesn't treat your emotions as inconvenience. That doesn't punish you for needing something real. There is someone, maybe even just yourself, for now, who will sit with your sadness, stand beside your joy, and meet your intensity with presence, not retreat. So breathe tonight. Breathe into the space you've been told to shrink. Feel your heartbeat. It's steady. It's strong. It's yours. You are not too much. You are exactly enough. Let this be the beginning of you unlearning that lie. Let this be the night you give yourself permission to show up fully, raw, soft, brave, broken, beautiful. You are not too much. You are the right amount of soul in a world starving for truth. And you are so lovable. There's a certain kind of silence that lingers. When someone leaves without explanation. A room that feels colder. A message that never comes. A goodbye that wasn't even whispered, just felt. And when that happens, it's easy, far too easy, to blame yourself. You go back over every moment, every word, every part of you that might have been too much, or not enough. And slowly, quietly, a thought settles into your chest. They left because of me. But tonight, let me challenge that thought. Because no matter how convincing it feels, they didn't leave because of you. They left because of them. Because of the weight they were carrying that you never saw. Because of the healing they hadn't done. Because staying required vulnerability they weren't ready to offer. Because you held up a mirror they didn't want to face. Sometimes people walk away. Not because you failed them, but because they were never capable of staying. And that is not your fault. You didn't ruin it by caring too much. You didn't lose them by being open, loving, or hopeful. You were honest, and they weren't ready for honesty. You were steady, and they were used to chaos. You were present, and they didn't know what to do with that kind of consistency. You don't have to carry the weight of someone else's exit. Not anymore. Not tonight. Their absence is not proof of your unworthiness. Their silence is not evidence that you are too difficult to love. Their departure does not mean you are lacking. Sometimes, people leave good things because they haven't yet learned how to hold them. And your only job now is to stop twisting yourself into shapes you were never meant to become, just to make sense of someone else's confusion. You are not the reason they couldn't stay. You are not the broken one here. So exhale. Let their leaving be what it was, a door that closed. Not because you weren't enough, but because you were never supposed to be the one proving your worth to begin with. Tonight, let go of that guilt. It doesn't belong to you. There's a certain kind of silence that lingers. When someone leaves without explanation. A room that feels colder. A message that never comes. A goodbye that wasn't even whispered, just felt. And when that happens, it's easy, far too easy, to blame yourself. You go back over every moment, every word, every part of you that might have been too much, or not enough. And slowly, quietly, a thought settles into your chest. They left because of me. But tonight, let me challenge that thought. Because no matter how convincing it feels, they didn't leave because of you. They left because of them. because of the weight they were carrying that you never saw, because of the healing they hadn't done, because staying required vulnerability they weren't ready to offer, because you held up a mirror they didn't want to face. Sometimes people walk away, not because you failed them, but because they were never capable of staying. And that is not your fault. You didn't ruin it by caring too much. You didn't lose them by being open, loving, or hopeful. You were honest, and they weren't ready for honesty. You were steady, and they were used to chaos. You were present, and they didn't know what to do with that kind of consistency. You don't have to carry the weight of someone else's exit. Not anymore. Not tonight. Their absence is not proof of your unworthiness. Their silence is not evidence that you are too difficult to love. Their departure does not mean you are lacking. Sometimes, people leave good things because they haven't yet learned how to hold them. And your only job now is to stop twisting yourself into shapes you were never meant to become, just to make sense of someone else's confusion. You are not the reason they couldn't stay. You are not the broken one here. So exhale. Let their leaving be what it was, a door that closed. Not because you weren't enough, but because you were never supposed to be the one proving your worth to begin with. Tonight, let go of that guilt. It doesn't belong to you. You may not say it out loud, but I know you felt it. That tight feeling in your chest. When you want to reach out, but don't. That moment you swallow your pain. Because you don't want to be too much for someone else. You carry your sadness in silence, your anxiety with a smile, your exhaustion behind apologies. Why? Because somewhere along the way, someone made you feel like your needs were inconvenient, like your emotions were too big, like your presence came with weight people didn't want to hold. And so you adapted. You lightened yourself. You tiptoed. You made yourself easier to be around. But let's stop here tonight. Let's sit in this one truth. Because it matters more than you know. You were never a burden. Not then. Not now. Not ever. You were a human being. Feeling deeply in a world that didn't always know how to hold it. You were someone with emotions, not too many, just honest ones. You needed support, not constantly, just occasionally. Like every person deserves. And when they pulled away, when they rolled their eyes, when they changed the subject or made you feel guilty for feeling, that wasn't your fault. That was a failure of them, not a flaw in you. Being loved shouldn't mean hiding the parts of yourself that need care. Being accepted shouldn't mean you carry everything on your own. You don't need to apologize for being human. You don't need to feel guilty for having needs. You don't have to shrink just to be someone else's idea of easy. You were never too heavy. Maybe they were just never strong enough to love someone as real as you. Let this moment soften the shame. Let your shoulders drop. Let yourself breathe, not as someone taking up too much, but as someone finally coming home to themselves. You were never a burden. You were just someone who deserved more gentleness than the world gave you. And now, you're learning how to give it to yourself. You may have grown up in a world where love had to shout to be noticed, where affection came in bursts, followed by long silences, where drama was mistaken for passion, and pain was disguised as proof that it mattered. You were taught, without words, that love had to hurt a little, to be real. So when love is quiet, when it's steady, when it doesn't chase or demand or sting, you doubt it. You think, this can't be love. It's too still, too gentle, too boring. But that's not your truth talking. That's your trauma echoing. Because here's what I want you to know tonight. As you close your eyes and exhale, love doesn't have to be loud to be real. Real love is patient. It doesn't raise its voice to be heard. It doesn't create chaos just to feel alive. Real love is the softness that doesn't disappear when things get quiet. It's the presence that remains when the butterflies fade. It's the kind of touch that doesn't startle, but steadies. You don't have to keep chasing the highs and lows, the constant questioning, the emotional roller coasters that feel like home, because they were all you knew. Because love isn't meant to confuse you. It's meant to hold you. Love can be quiet and still and kind. The way rain falls at night without needing to be seen. The way the moon rises whether anyone is watching or not. Love can be the silent comfort that just stays. No need for declarations. No need for drama. Just a quiet knowing. You are safe. You are seen. You are loved. So if love ever made you feel like you had to shout to be heard, or fight to be noticed, or break to be understood, please know, that wasn't love. That was fear wearing love's face. Tonight, let those patterns rest. Let the noise fade. Let stillness become the new kind of love you're learning to trust. Because the loudest love is not always the truest. But the truest love always finds a way to stay. Even when it doesn't say a word. You've spent so much of your life feeling like a problem that needed solving. People heard your pain and rushed to offer answers. People saw your struggle and tried to tidy it up with advice. Just think positive. Stop overreacting. Have you tried being stronger? And every time they tried to fix you, it sent you one quiet message. You're not okay as you are. So you stopped sharing. You bottled it up. You taught yourself to only show the parts that looked fine. But I want you to hear something tonight. Not as advice, not as a solution, but as truth. You don't need to be fixed. You were never broken in the way you thought. You were hurt. You were surviving. You were feeling. And none of that means you were less worthy of being loved. You are not a project. You are not a crisis to be managed. You are not someone's emotional puzzle. You are a person, whole, complicated, beautifully unfinished. And one day, or maybe already, you will be met by someone who doesn't see your wounds as inconvenience. Someone who doesn't interrupt your sadness with their discomfort. Someone who doesn't offer a quick fix because they can't bear to sit in the dark with you. Someone will stay. Not to change you. Not to silence your story. But just to be there. Fully. Steadily. Kindly. They will see the mess and not flinch. They will hear the fear and not shrink away. They will sit beside you, not because they know what to say, but because they know you shouldn't have to carry it alone. And maybe, until that person comes, you can begin to be that someone for yourself. You can sit with your heart without judgment. You can say, "This is hard," without rushing to fix it. You can let the pain be real without making it your identity. Because healing doesn't always mean changing. Sometimes it just means being with yourself in a new way. So tonight, stop trying to be a version of yourself. That is more palatable, more acceptable, more polished. You are not a version. You are already you. And someone, someday, will stay. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. And you were always enough. You've gotten really good at it, haven't you? The quiet smile. The polite laugh. The "I'm fine" that hides a hurricane behind your eyes. You know how to carry your pain without making a sound. You know how to sit in a crowded room and feel like you're vanishing. You know how to show up, even when every part of you is begging to disappear. And because you've mastered the art of pretending, most people don't even notice when you're breaking. But tonight, just for tonight, let's lay that mask down. You don't have to keep pretending you're okay. You don't have to smile if you don't feel like it. You don't have to explain your heaviness. You don't have to carry this weight alone just because you always have. There is so much strength in honesty. There is bravery in saying, "I'm not okay right now." There is power in being real, even if it's messy. There is healing in admitting that you're tired of being the strong one. You were never meant to go through everything alone. You were never meant to be a performance for people who don't take time to understand you. You deserve rest. You deserve softness. You deserve to be held, not just physically, but emotionally. And even if no one else sees what you're holding inside, I do. I see the quiet battle you fought for far too long. I see the strength it takes just to wake up and keep going. I see how much you've given, even when there was barely anything left in you. You've earned the right to stop pretending. You've earned the right to feel, really feel, without guilt, without shame, without apology. Let this be your moment of truth. Let this be the breath you didn't know you were holding. Let this be where the performance ends and peace begins. You are allowed to not be okay. You are allowed to ask for help. You are allowed to cry, collapse, rest, rage, release. You are allowed to simply be. And in this moment, as you lie there with the world finally quiet, may you know this with every part of your heart. You don't have to pretend anymore. You are human. You are hurting. You are healing. And that is enough. Scars have a way of making us feel ashamed. Not always the ones on our skin, but the invisible ones. The emotional bruises. The moments we don't talk about. The nights we cried alone. The parts of us that feel dented, damaged, or too far gone. You tried to hide them behind achievements, behind smiles, behind staying strong. But some nights, like tonight, the weight of those wounds feels louder than everything else. And deep down you ask yourself, would someone still love me if they saw all this? So here's the truth, whispered into the quiet of this moment. Yes, they would. Because scars don't make you unlovable. They make you human. They're not signs of weakness. They're reminders that you've survived. Proof that you've been through battles, and you're still standing. You've felt pain deeply, and still found a way to keep going. You've been hurt, and still chose kindness. You've been let down, and still held on to hope. That doesn't make you broken. It makes you beautifully real. Someone, somewhere, will love you not in spite of your scars, but because of them. Because they'll see your tenderness, your strength, your resilience, your quiet bravery, and they'll know just how rare that is. And even before they come, you can start to love yourself in that same way. Not by erasing what hurt you, not by pretending your past didn't happen, but by looking at your scars and saying, this shaped me, but it didn't ruin me. You are still worthy of love. The kind that holds, the kind that stays, the kind that whispers, I see all of you, and I'm not going anywhere. Your past does not disqualify you. Your pain does not make you less. Your scars are not too much for the right heart to hold. So tonight, rest in this truth. You are not damaged. You are deserving. You are deeply, wholly, unshakably lovable. Scars and all. You've known what it feels like. To wait for a reply that never came. To give more than you had, hoping it would finally be enough. You've stood in rooms full of people, and still wondered why you felt invisible. You've watched others get chosen, again and again, while you quietly questioned what was wrong with you. And in those silent comparisons, you started believing something painful. That you weren't worth choosing. But listen closely, because this matters now more than ever. The right people won't make you beg to be chosen. They won't keep you waiting, wondering if you're worthy of their attention. They won't make your presence feel like a burden, or your love feel like an inconvenience. The right people, the ones meant for your life, your soul, your story, will see you. They won't need convincing. They won't need perfect timing. They won't need you to shrink or sparkle just right. They will meet you with clarity, with softness, with that peaceful energy that says, I want you here, not because I need you to prove yourself, but because I genuinely value who you are. You'll never have to twist yourself into a version you think they'll approve of. You'll never have to question if they're all in, because they'll show you they are. And even if you've never had that before, even if your past is full of almost mixed signals and maybes, that doesn't mean you're not worthy of certainty. You are. You always have been. Sometimes it's not that you were too much. It's that they were never enough to handle the beauty of your full heart. So don't settle for half love. Don't keep chasing people who look past you. Don't exhaust yourself trying to be someone they'll finally notice. You don't have to be louder to be loved. You just need the right ears to listen. And when those people come, and they will, you'll understand why it never worked before. Because you were never meant to beg. You were meant to belong. Some nights, you lie there wondering why it still hurts. Why you're not over it. Why you still flinch at memories you thought you buried long ago. You've done the work. You've read the books. You've whispered the affirmations. You've tried to be stronger, better, lighter. But the truth still lingers in your chest. You're tired, and not fully healed. And here's what no one says enough. That's okay. You don't have to heal all at once. Healing isn't a straight road or a checklist. It's not a switch you flip when the sun rises. It's a slow, sacred unraveling. It's learning how to breathe again after years of holding your breath. Sometimes it looks like progress. Other times, it looks like crying in the middle of a good day. For reasons you can't explain. Sometimes you'll feel whole again. Other times, a single word can undo you. And none of that means you're failing. It just means you're human. You're still learning how to hold the softness of your heart. After so many seasons of survival, you're still figuring out how to feel, without fearing the flood that comes with it. You're still unlearning the belief that your pain makes you unworthy of peace. So tonight, let this moment be a pause, not pressure. Let this space be a reminder that healing has no deadline. You are allowed to rest in the middle. You are allowed to celebrate how far you've come, without needing to be finished. You are allowed to simply exist, without having to prove your growth to anyone. Your healing will come, in pieces, in quiet waves, in unexpected conversations and soft mornings where nothing hurts. But even before it's complete, you are still enough, still lovable, still worthy of being held. You don't have to be healed to be whole. You don't have to be done to be deserving. You don't have to rush. So exhale. You're not behind. You're exactly where your soul needs you to be. You've gotten used to being the afterthought, the backup plan, the maybe if nothing else works out person, the friend who always shows up, but rarely gets invited first, the one who gives everything and watches others give just enough. And somewhere along the way, you convinced yourself, maybe this is just who I am, someone people come to when they need something, but not someone they choose. But let me say this gently. As you lie here tonight, you're allowed to want more than that. You're allowed to want someone to choose you first. Not out of pity, not out of convenience, but out of genuine desire. You're allowed to want someone to think of you when they're planning their day, not just when they're lonely at night. You're allowed to want the kind of love that doesn't wait until everything else falls apart to realize your worth. Wanting to be chosen first doesn't make you needy. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you human. It means your heart has a memory of what it feels like to be overlooked. And it's aching for a different kind of story. And that story is possible. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not asking for too much. When you say, I want to matter without having to prove myself, there is someone, maybe already in your life, maybe not yet, who will look at you and see what others missed. Someone who will say your name first, who will choose your heart without hesitation, who won't make you compete for scraps of their attention. Someone who will love you with intention, not just convenience. And until they come, or even if they never do, you can begin to choose yourself first. You can stop shrinking to fit. You can stop settling for half love. You can stop chasing people who never had the depth to hold you. Because being chosen by someone else feels beautiful. But choosing yourself, especially after all the times you weren't picked, is a revolution. And tonight, maybe that's where healing begins. You don't have to wait for someone to notice you, to be worthy of attention. You don't have to be someone's second choice to be loved. You're already someone worth choosing. From the very beginning, some of the deepest wounds you carry are the ones no one ever noticed. The quiet heartbreaks, the lonely nights, the moments where you needed someone to ask, "Are you okay?" But no one did. So you learned how to keep it hidden, to cry silently, to smile through the ache, to swallow your emotions, because they felt too invisible to matter. And maybe now, when the pain returns, you hear your own mind whispering, "Was it even that bad? Did it even count if no one saw it? Am I just being dramatic?" Let me answer those questions for you right now. It was real. It mattered. You mattered. Pain doesn't need a witness to be valid. Suffering doesn't become less because it happened in the dark. Your feelings are not waiting for a crowd to count. You carry things others never saw. And that doesn't make you weak. It makes you incredibly strong. You endured without applause. You healed without acknowledgement. You survived without recognition. And maybe tonight, as the world settles into its silence, you can finally let yourself feel what you once had to bury, not to relive the pain, but to give it the space it never had. You can say, "That hurt me. That shaped me. That was real." Because when you name it, you honor your truth. And healing begins. Not when others finally believe you, but when you do. You don't need anyone else to validate what broke you. You don't need a courtroom of people to justify your tears. You were there. You felt it. That's enough. And even now, those old wounds are not proof of your weakness. They are proof that your heart still beats, that your soul still cares, that you made it through something that could have shattered you, and you're still here. So tonight, whisper this to yourself as you drift towards sleep. What I felt was real, and I'm allowed to honor it. Even now. Especially now. You've held it together for so long. You've carried the weight of your world. Quietly, privately, gracefully. As if it were your sole responsibility to hold up the sky while everyone else found shade beneath it. You've wiped away your own tears in silence. You've solved problems without asking for help. You've told yourself, "I can handle it. I always do." And you have. But just because you can carry it all, doesn't mean you should have to. You were never meant to carry it all alone. There is a strength in independence, yes. But there's an even deeper strength. In vulnerability. In whispering, "I need help. I'm tired. Please hold this with me." Somewhere along the way, you were taught that needing others was weakness. That asking for support was shameful. That you should be proud of doing it all. But all that did was teach you how to drown quietly, while smiling on the surface. It's time to let go of that story. Because real connection, the kind that heals, only begins when we let others meet us. Not just in our victories, but in our valleys. You don't have to always be the strong one. You don't have to hold your emotions in check, so others don't feel uncomfortable. You don't have to keep pretending you're okay when your soul is aching for someone to say. You don't have to do this by yourself. Even if no one said it before, let me say it now. You are not a burden. You are not too much. You are not weak for needing help. In fact, letting others see your truth might be the bravest thing you'll ever do. And maybe, just maybe, the weight you've been carrying isn't something you need to drop, but something you were never meant to carry alone. Let this be your reminder. It's okay to lean. It's okay to rest. It's okay to be held. You've held everyone else for so long. Tonight, let yourself be held. Even if it's just by this voice, this moment, this gentle truth. You are not alone anymore.